This is Justin Jaron Lewis. With me will be Jane Enkin. This is a broadcast for Temple Shalom, Winnipeg, a congregation we are part of and very proud to be members of. And we are just, as it were, powering up the video here. Hope you are all doing as well as can be in these strange times. This is one of a lot of programs that Temple Shalom is bringing to the community through the internet, reaching out to everyone. We want to especially thank Netta Aviv from Temple Shalom, who thought of this program a year ago today and has been organizing it and helping to make this happen all along. And thanks to everyone at Temple Shalom who has been so helpful and supportive. I've put a link on the event page, and I'm going to copy it into the comments here right now as well. Through this link, you can access the lyrics of the songs that Jane is going to be sharing and the passages from the Song of Songs that we're going to be reading together, and some other material. So you might want to click on that link. We have been having some trouble with our internet connection. Hopefully all will go smoothly now, but if you find that we suddenly disappear, please be patient. We will be reconnecting within a minute or two. So don't go away once you are tuned in. Regarding comments, you can type in comments, but the internet tells me that the comments part of Facebook Live is not its best feature. It may happen that I don't see your comments. What I will do after this broadcast, I go through all of the comments that I can, and I type in responses to them. And if you don't hear back from me in that way, then get in touch with me directly through the temple or through myself. I would love to respond to any questions and thoughts that you might have. Okay. So what are we here for? We're talking about Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, a very brief book, 1,251 words, of lyric poetry and some narrative elements, which is included in the Tanakh, the Jewish Bible. The name Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, could mean the best of all the songs, or it could mean that it's a song made up of songs, a gathering of poems. It begins, and if you've clicked on the link and opened the PDF of the Song of Songs verses, you can follow along there if you want, anytime I mention a chapter and verse number. So this is chapter 1, verse 1, Shir HaShirim Asher Lishlomo, the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. So it's also called in English, Song of Solomon. And there is a tradition that King Solomon wrote this book, which we'll talk about a bit later. We read the Song of Songs traditionally on Pesach at this time of year. And there's a number of reasons for that. One of them is these verses in chapter 2, verses 10 and 11. Anadodi va'amar li, kumilach, rayati, yafati, ulchilach, ki hine hastav avar, hageshem, chalaf, halach lo. My beloved answered and said to me, Get yourself up, my darling, my beauty, and come away. For look, the winter is over, the rain has passed and gone away. So it seems like the poetry here is happening at exactly this time of year, the end of the rainy times in the land of Israel, the beginning of springtime. So some people read the Song of Songs after the Seder. In traditional synagogues, it's read on the Shabbat in Pesach, often from a scroll, like we read Esther on Purim. And it's also read traditionally on Friday evening before Kabbalat Shabbat. Some read it quietly, meditatively, others chant it aloud. And there are a couple of reasons for that, which I'll also mention later. If there is going to be one takeaway from this session, I hope it is that you'll read the Song of Songs if you haven't read it before. And if you have read it before, that you'll read it again. It's very available. If you have a Tanakh, a Jewish Bible, or a Christian Bible in the house, it's in there. It's in many traditional prayer books and some editions of the Haggadah. And like so much else, it is available on the internet, in the original ancient Hebrew, and in many different translations. So please read the Song of Songs. Now, when you read it, you may find it difficult to understand. And that's because it is in poetry. It leaves out a lot of things. A lot of things are unsaid. And also because it is in ancient Hebrew, not the Israeli Hebrew of today. And actually, the better you know modern Hebrew, the more confusing the Song of Songs will be for you. For example, one of the key words in Shir HaShirim is Dod or Dodi, like in the famous phrase from chapter 2, verse 16, Dodi li va'ani lo, my Dod is mine and I am his. In everyday Israeli Hebrew today, Dod means uncle, but that is not how it's translated here. In the Song of Songs, Dod is the man I love, romantically, erotically. And the same word, Dod, also means love, caresses, the emotional and the physical warmth of erotic love. Besides words that have changed their meanings, there are a lot of words in the Song of Songs that don't come up anywhere else in the Bible, so their meaning is unsure. And these are reasons why there are so many different translations available, and they do differ from each other, but they're all worth looking at. The poetry of the Song of Songs has inspired all kinds of songs. In a moment, I'm going to ask Jane Enkin to share one of them with you. If you happen to click on the link I provided, the lyrics of Jane's songs are also available there. And Netta is going to post after the program some links to other songs based on or inspired by this Song of Songs on this Facebook page. And we invite you to do so as well. Jane, would you like to share a song with us?
This is Libaftini. It was recorded by the group Haparvarim. You have won my heart, my sister, my bride. You have won my heart with one glance of your eyes. How beautiful is your love, my sister, bride, and the fragrance of your garments, like the fragrance of Lebanon. ליבבתיני אחותי כלה, ליבבתיני באחת מעינייך, מה יפו דודייך אחותי כלה, וריח שמותייך כריח לבנון. ליבבתיני אחותי כלה, ליבבתיני באחת מעינייך, מה יפו דודייך אחותי כלה, ריח שמותייך כריח לבנון. ליבבתיני אחותי כלה, ליבבתיני באחת מעינייך, מה יפו דודייך אחותי כלה, וריח שמותייך כריח לבנון.
Thank you, Jane. So in that beautiful song, you can hear some of the lush sounds of the Hebrew of Song of Songs. And I want to just draw attention to how beautiful it sounds. I've posted at the links to chanting of the entire Song of Songs in a couple of different traditions. A YouTube video audio of a Moroccan rabbi chanting the Song of Songs in a traditional Moroccan trope, and another of a traditional Ashkenazi melody. It's also, if you can sound out Hebrew at all, worth just opening the book and reading some of the words and savoring the sounds. Even just the very beginning. Shir Hashirim Asher Lishlomo. Feel those gentle sounds echoing each other, the alliteration. It's like a whisper of love to begin the book. There's a lot of repetition of sounds and wordplay in this book. For example, chapter 7, verse 1, come back, Shulamit, come back, and let us look at you. Shuvi, Hashulamit, Shuvi, the Nechezeh Bach. You can hear that echoing of the sh and the ooh. And by the way, the name Shulamit, the root letters there are the same as shalom, peace, and different forms of those root letters come up 19 times through Shir Hashirim. That's one of the ways that the words echo one another. And there are also rhymes, which is not usual in the poetry of the Bible, but rhyme is used in Song of Songs for different effects, including, I think, humor. Like chapter 2, verse 15, catch us, the foxes, the little foxes that spoil the vineyards. In the Hebrew, Echezu lanu shu'alim, ketanim, mechablim, keramim. The rhyming, I think, creates a merriment there as these little foxes run around in the vineyard. I mentioned the key word dod, beloved, or caresses, and that word comes up 39 times in different forms in the Song of Songs. So 1 out of every 32 words in the book is this sound of caressing and loving. If you look at the word Dod on the page, you see the letters Dalet, Vav, Dalet, which spells David, David, like King David, the father of Solomon, who is known in the Bible for his youthful courage and passion. There are many stories of his erotic adventures. So his name is here in this Song of Songs, but it's never sounded out. So this is a poem where it's worth listening both to what it sounds like and what it doesn't sound like, what it doesn't actually say. Besides the sounds of the poem, there are its wonderful images, and they are not just visual. Looking again at the beginning of this poem, Shir Hashirim Asher Lishlomo, Yeshakeni Min Shikot Pihu, Kitovim Dodecha Miyayin, Lereach Shmanecha Tovim, Shemen Turak Shmecha. May he kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. When your caresses are better than wine, for the fragrance of your good oils, flowing oil is your name. So this is poetry that evokes sound, the Song of Songs, and the intimate sense of touch in the kisses and the caresses, the smell, the fragrance of the oils, and whatever we call that feeling of having drunk wine and feeling it start to do its work inside of you. It is sensory on so many levels. The images tell us that the author or the characters love the land, Eretz Israel, and its neighbors. They seem to be traveling constantly. They mention the desert in the south, the springs of Ein Gedi, Jerusalem, the ancient city of Tirzah further north, and the mountains and forests of Syria and Lebanon. They love the city with its buildings and the luxuries to be found there, the gold and jewels and perfumes. They love the countryside, the vineyards, orchards, fruits and flowers, flocks of goats. They love the wilderness and the animals there, especially the deer and gazelles. And they love human bodies. And this is expressed in all kinds of metaphors and wordplay where nature and the body come together. Chapter 4, verse 12. You are a locked garden, my sister, my bride, a locked wave, a sealed spring. Gan na'ul achoti chala, gal na'ul mayan chatum. Listen to the sounds of that and how the gan, the garden, becomes a wave of a spring, the gal. Famously, these mergings together of objects and landscapes and bodies become quite surreal. I'm going to read just in translation, chapter 5, verses 11 to 16. His head is the finest gold. His hair is hilly, black as the raven. His eyes are like doves by streams of water, bathing in milk resting in fullness. His cheeks are like the heap of spices, towers of perfume. His lips are roses, dripping with flowing myrrh. His arms are rounded gold, filled with jewels. His belly is carved ivory, covered with sapphires. His legs are marble pillars, set on pedestals of gold. His looks are like Lebanon, choice as the cedars. His mouth is sweetness, all of him is desirable. This is my beloved, this is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem. Hearing it read quickly like this, it might not be obvious how strange this is. If you go to the link I've posted, there's a cartoon there based on the similar descriptions of the female body in other chapters of the Song of Songs. And the cartoon shows how really strange it gets if you picture this literally. It reminds me of paintings such as some of those of Renoir or photos that various photographers have made where a person is in a landscape and the person's body and the landscape blur together. They belong together and you really can't tell them apart. It also makes me think of times that you may have experienced where you are so into someone that everything you see and experience reminds you of that person. And it also just seems deliberately surrealistic. Are the doves bathing in water or in milk? Since when does myrrh, which is sap from a tree, drip out of the petals of flowers or someone's lips? To me, all this is evoking an altered state, like the intoxication of love or lust or pleasure. So, as we're savoring this poetry, let's talk briefly about who wrote it. Because it's the Song of Solomon, and it mentions King Solomon a number of times, there's a tradition that he wrote it. King Solomon is also supposed to have written the book of Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, and the book of Mishle, or Proverbs. Some of our ancient rabbis said that he wrote Kohelet when he was old and facing death. He wrote Mishle, Proverbs, in his middle age, looking for wisdom. But he wrote Shir HaShirim when he was young and passionate. Of course, since we are Jewish, not everybody agrees that it was King Solomon who wrote this. Modern Bible scholars tend to think it comes from much later than Solomon's time, more like 2,000 rather than 3,000 years ago. They also think that this is one of the books of the Bible that there's a good chance that a woman wrote, because it is exactly the kind of songs that we know that women singers performed in ancient times, and because the voices of women are so strong and so expressive in this book from beginning to end. Some of our ancient rabbis, on the other hand, think this is much earlier than King Solomon, that this song was sung at the sea as we were coming out of Egypt, or that it was sung at Mount Sinai as we were receiving the Torah. And who sang it? Some say we did, the Israelites. Some say the heavenly angels sang this song. And some say it was God's own glorious self who sang this song to us, which is all making me want to hear some singing. Jane, would you be able to share another song with us right now?
Sure. I love this song and the singing of Shoshana Damari. You can hear her on the internet singing many songs. And the song is from the 1940s, written by Sarah Levi Tanai. And it uses verses from many parts of Shir HaShirim. I went down into the walnut grove to look at the blossoms of the valley, to see if the vine has blossomed, if the pomegranates have budded. Come, my beloved, let us go out to the fields, spend the night in the villages, get up early to go to the vineyards. Let us see if the vine has blossomed, if the flowers have opened. And this part might be familiar to you from other songs. Awake, north wind, come, south wind, breathe on my garden, let its fragrance flow. Let my beloved come to his garden and eat his delicious fruit. The other phrase you might recognize is Lecha Dodi, come, my beloved. El ginat egos yaradeti, lirot ve'i behanachal, lirot hapacha hagefen, henetzu harimonim. לחדודי נצא השדה, נעלין בכפרים, נשכים על הכרמים, נראה אם פחה הגפן, פיתח הסמדר. אורי צפון ובואי תימן, הפיחי גני יתלו ושמיו, יבוא דודי לגנו, ויאכל פרי מגדיו. לך דודי נצא השדה, נעלין בכפרים, נשכים על הכרמים, נראה אם פחה הגפן, פיתח הסמדר.
It's so beautiful to hear this song of songs sung. Thank you, Jane. So what is Shir HaShirim about? It's possible that it's just a collection of lyrics that don't really hang together. And if you look at any continuous passage of it, you'll find that it really jumps around a lot and switches location and characters unpredictably. However, there are also lots of connecting threads and repeated situations. There's even a kind of chorus, which you find first in chapter 2, verse 7. Hishbati atchem benot Yerushalayim, bitzvaot o ba'ayalot hasadeh, im ta'iru ve'im ta'oreru et ha'ahava ad shetachpatz. I adjure you, I make you swear, daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or the deers of the field, not to arouse and not to awaken love until she desires. So there's that chorus, and all the way through you start to get feelings of personalities, especially a passionate, strong, playful woman whose name may be Shulamit, alternately longing for and reveling in her lover. So since ancient times, Shir HaShirim has been read as a love story about a man and a woman, maybe not with a coherent storyline, but like a collection of snapshots of moments in their lives together. And one of the happiest interpretations of the Song of Songs in that light comes from Phyllis Tribble, an important Christian feminist biblical scholar who wrote beautifully about this in the 1970s. And in the link I've posted, there is a link to her article on this, which isn't easy, but is well worth reading. She says that the Song of Songs is an answer to and a tikkun, a fixing for the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden from the book of Genesis. In both books, you have a man and a woman in lush natural surroundings, surrounded by fruit and animals. The word gan, garden, is really important in both. Here in Shir HaShirim, often the woman is in a garden, often she is the garden. But in Genesis, Bereshit, there's one fruit they're not supposed to eat. They eat it, and everything goes wrong. Here in the Song of Songs, they're allowed to eat everything, and they do, and they indulge, and it's all love and pleasure. That love and pleasure includes a lot of humor and teasing. Look toward the end of the book at chapter 8, verse 8, where we find some controlling brothers who have been mentioned once or twice earlier. And it tells us that they used to say, "We have a little sister, and she has no breasts yet. But what shall we do with our sister when the time comes that people are talking about her? If she is a wall, we will build a silver barricade on her. But if she is a doorway, we will shut her with a board of cedar." In other words, if she's modest and virginal, as if she lived behind a wall, then we'll ornament her as we protect her. But if she is open, we keep her shut in the house. But now look what she says in the very next verse, all grown up. "I'm a wall, and my breasts are like the towers. So I've become in his eyes like someone who brings shalom." And shalom here means more like pleasure. So she's taken this wall, the symbol of keeping her shut in and protected, and turned it into a celebration of her sexuality, her beautiful breasts. Or look at the very last line of the song, chapter 8, verse 14. "Berach dodi, udemelecha litzvi, ola ofer ha'ayalim, al harei v'samim." Run away, Dodi, my beloved man. Be like a gazelle or a young stag on the hills of fragrant spices. Most translations that I've seen want this to be a romantic ending where the lovers are united. So they can't handle the word barach, and they translate it as "come away with me" or "hurry to me." But barach everywhere in the Bible means run away. So she's like, get out of here. She's teasing him, and she's not at all clingy or needy. I really like her personality. And I really like this reading in the style of Phyllis Tribble. Although her focus is on a heterosexual couple, she also acknowledges that the whole Song of Songs can be read more broadly. We could say now more queerly. Tribble writes, "The woman exults that other women as well as men, adore her mate. Similarly, the man rejoices that other men, as well as women, delight in his partner. And in fact, there are quite a few places where we're not talking about a monogamous couple, whether it's because there are notes of ancient polygamy, mentioning queens and concubines, or in scenes like chapter 5, verse 1, where the eating and drinking are metaphors or double entendres for erotic intimacy. I've gathered my myrrh with my spices. I've eaten my honeycomb with my honey. I've drunk my wine with my milk. Eat, friends. Drink and get drunk, beloveds. We're in the plural here. And as you'll notice if you read it, along with the allusions to King Solomon, there are mentions of a male lover who is a shepherd in the countryside. Chapter 2, verse 16, Dodi li va'ani lo, haro'eh bashoshanim, my beloved is mine, and I am his, the shepherd among the roses. So is the lover a glorious king, or is he a humble shepherd, or are there two men in our heroine's life? Even at the very beginning, you can ask where it says, may he kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. When your caresses are better than wine, is the he and the you the same person? Or are we enjoying the embrace of more than one person here? Also, in that phrase, we have no way of knowing the gender of the person asking for the kisses. And that's true quite often in the Song of Songs, that the Hebrew doesn't indicate the gender of the speaker. And there are places where gender fluidity seems built right into it. As I mentioned before, there's a chorus that we see first at chapter 2, verse 7. Hishbati etchem benot Yerushalayim. I adjure you, daughters of Jerusalem. Now, if you've studied Hebrew grammar, you will know that you in the feminine plural is etchen with a nun at the end. But the daughters of Jerusalem are addressed etchem in the masculine plural. So from here and many other places, we have erotic poetry and storytelling that lends itself to reading as pansexual, polyamorous, gender fluid. And although these are contemporary words, I don't think it's anachronistic to apply them here. We sometimes imagine all of history as if it was a kind of suburban 1950s with compulsory heterosexual monogamy, but history is a lot queerer than that. Now, all of these readings have been cheerful about love and pleasure. But in order to read everything as cheerful, you have to ignore at least one key scene in the Song of Songs. In chapter 3, verses 3 and 4, a woman is out at night looking for her male beloved. And she says, the guards who go around the city found me. Have you seen the one I love? Scarcely had I gone on past them when I found the one I love. So there all is good. But later, chapter 5, verses 7 and 8, she's again looking for her beloved at night. The guards who go around the city found me. They beat me. They wounded me. They took my cloak off me, the guards of the walls. And in the next verse, she keeps what happens to herself. And she says, I adjure you, daughters of Jerusalem, if you find my beloved, what shall you tell him? That I am weak with love. This is an important passage. I saw a Christian commentary that said that it happens in a dream. I see no reason to think that. It's a note of harsh realism, evoking police brutality, evoking sexual abuse by authority figures. And there is a reading of the Song of Songs in which this painful passage is absolutely key. This interpretation became part of Jewish tradition through a wonderful Hebrew commentary by the Malbim, a 19th century Hasidic Orthodox rabbi. In his reading, which he basically borrowed from Christian German Bible scholars of the early 1800s, Shir HaShirim is a coherent love story in the form of a drama, where many of the characters that we've mentioned play important roles. Our heroine, Shulamit, is a young shepherdess who is in love with a shepherd. But King Solomon, the villain in this reading, lusts after her and takes her prisoner in his palace. The daughters of Jerusalem are the queens and concubines of the harem, keeping an eye on her, trying to prevent her from escaping. And why do the police, the night watchmen, assault her? Because she is an escaped prisoner. She escapes 4 times only to be captured again. But the 5th time, she boldly goes off into the wilderness with her beloved and does not come back, because love conquers all, which is a line I was frankly surprised to see in a Bible commentary by an Orthodox rabbi. But she has a little sister in the lines that were mentioned before, and she and her beloved are worried about protecting her from King Solomon's rapacious lust. So whether or not we accept this whole reading, it tells us something just as true now as ever. Love and pleasure have to make their way in a world that is violent and unsafe, especially for women. We're going to, last of all, look at religious meanings of the Song of Songs. With all its depth and beauty, it's still surprising that it's in the Bible, because at a glance it doesn't mention God at all. If you look a little more closely, you'll find that it does mention God, but in punning, ambiguous ways. And the best example is that same repeated refrain from chapter 2, verse 7. Hishbati atchem benot Yerushalayim. I adjure you, daughters of Jerusalem, be tzvaot, by tzvaot. So what is tzvaot? It's a name of God, like in the Kedusha, Kadosh, 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 Adonai tzvaot. Holy, holy, holy is God tzvaot. But then she goes on, O va'ayalot hasadeh, or by the deer of the fields. And that leads us to read tzvaot in its other meaning as the plural of tzviya, a female deer. So she's not evoking the creator, but the nature that God created. Nevertheless, since ancient times, this book has been read as having another level of meaning. And that's about God and love. either the love of God for us, the Jewish people, and that's probably the most widespread Jewish reading, or the love of God and the individual soul. That's how the Malbim interprets the deeper meaning. And you see that also in the song Yedid Nefesh, which is about our love for God. Or, according to the Zohar and Kabbalah, the love is inside of God. The love is between Shulamit, the Shekhinah, the feminine divine presence, and the masculine transcendent aspect of God. And this is one reason why Shir HaShirim is read on Friday nights, because the beginning of Shabbat is the time of welcoming the Shekhinah, as we do in the song Lecha Dodi. And of course, the other reason for reading it on Friday night is that Friday night, later on, is the best time for making love in Jewish tradition. And so it's inspiring, it's setting the mood. I want to emphasize that this religious reading of the Song of Songs being about God is not instead of a human reading. There's a beautiful storytelling midrash on the verse that I'm looking for in my papers right now, which says, Nagila v'nismecha bach, chapter 1, verse 4. Pull me after you, let's run. The king has brought me to his rooms. Nagila v'nismecha bach, we'd be glad and rejoice in you. We'll mention your caresses more than wine. The upright love you. In the Midrash, the imaginative storytelling commentaries on the Bible, there's a story about this, that in Lebanon, there lived a man and wife who had been married for 10 years and they'd had no children. And they decided together that they should divorce to give each other the chance to have children with someone else. And they went to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, by the way, the author of the Zohar, to divorce them. And he said, before we do anything like that, when you join together in marriage, you celebrated with eating and drinking. Don't part from each other without eating and drinking. So they made a feast. It says they made a Yom Tov, a festival, and they ate and they drank more than they should have. And when he was happily drunk, the husband said to his wife, my dear, take whatever you desire most from my house and go home to your parents. And she waited until he fell asleep. And she put him in bed, and she took that bed. She had servants or somebody to help or friends. They carried that bed to her parents' house. And the husband woke up there and he looked around and he saw his wife and he said, where am I and what's going on? And she said, my dear, didn't you tell me to take whatever I desired most from your house? There was nothing I desired more than you. They went back to Rabbi Shimon and told him they wanted to stay together. And he prayed for them, and they did have children together. So the Midrash reads this verse, Nagila v'nismecha bach, we be glad and rejoice in you, as being about that wife's devotion to her husband and his to her. And then it says, and this is just how things are with us and God. All we desire is God. Usually, in this understanding of the Song of Songs, God is the husband. We collectively are the wife or the girlfriend, the female beloved. But in the Zohar, it is God in the feminine who is most highlighted. Really, if you read the Zohar, the major work of Kabbalah, it has a heroine, and that heroine is the Shekhinah, the divine presence. And she is wandering through the world, yearning for her lover, finding him, and being separated from him again. She is the garden, she is the rose, she is all the images in the Song of Songs. And on a very, very deep level, says the Zohar, that is what it is all about. The eros of our connection with the Shekhinah and her connection with the other aspects of the divine, and all of them with our world, with all its beauty, and with us. As always, there are many more things I'd like to say, but we've been on air here for 55 minutes, so I'm going to ask Jane in a moment to sing one more song to conclude. If you have questions or thoughts, please type them into the comments on, let's say, on the event page that invited you to this evening. You can also add other things there, such as songs or art inspired by the Song of Songs. Thank you for sharing this with us. Again, I hope you are as well as can be in these strange times, looking after yourselves, looking out for each other. Thank you again, Netta Aviv, and everyone at Temple Shalom for this program. Jane, could you conclude with song?
So this is the most contemporary version of the Song of Songs that we have, and it's in the translation not into English and not from the original Hebrew, but into Yiddish from Lawrence Glamberg of the Cosmatics from 1991. The translation is a very famous Yiddish one by Yehoyash. And it's several verses of Shir Hashirim, including who is that who comes from the desert? And then he should kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. How beautiful is your love, more beautiful than wine. And your banner above me is love. Your eyes are like doves. Honey drips from your mouth. And come away with me, my love. Come with me to the fields, and there I will give you my love. Honigsaft. There is was geht von dem Midbar, wer is was geht ab von dem Midbar, wer is Kuschen soll mich, mit die Kuschen von sein Wohl, kuschen soll mich, mit die Kuschen von sein Wohl, kuschen soll mich, mit die Kuschen von sein Wohl, kuschen soll mich, mit die Kuschen von sein Wohl. Wie schön ist ein Liebschaft, wie schön ist ein Liebschaft, wie schön ist ein Liebschaft. Oh, wie besser dein Liebschaft von Wein, wie schön ist ein Liebschaft, Wie schön ist ein Liebschaft, wie schön ist ein Liebschaft. Wie besser dein Liebschaft von Wein. Kuschen soll mir, kuschen soll mir, mit die Kuschen von sein Mäul. Kuschen soll mir, kuschen soll mir, mit die Kuschen von sein Mäul. Sein Fahren über mir ist, sein Fahren über mir ist. Sein Fahren über mir ist Liebschaft, wenn sein Fahren über mir ist. Sein Fahren über mir ist. Sein Fahren über mir ist, sein Fahren über mir ist Liebschaft gewesen. Deine Augen wie Täuben bei Bächen von Wasser, geboren in Milch, hereingesetzt in Füllen, Honigsaft triffen deine Lippen, Honig und Milch unter dein Zung. Steh dir auf, mein Geliebter, mein Schöner, und komm dir. Komm, Geliebter, mein, lass mir rausgehen in Feld. Steh dir auf, mein Geliebter, mein Schöner, und komm dir. Dorten will ich geben, mein Liebschaft zu dir. Kuschen soll mich, mit die Kuschen von sein Mäul. Kuschen soll mich, mit die Kuschen von sein Mäul. Kuschen soll mich, mit die Kuschen von sein Mäul. Kuschen soll mich, mit die Kuschen von sein Mäul. Wer is was geht auf von einem Midnight? Wer is er? Wer is was geht auf von einem Midnight? Wer is er? Wer is er? Stay well, everyone.